Welcome to the Grace Fellowship Podcast. We are so excited that you're here listening with us. We hope that today's episode will inspire and equip you to know and follow Jesus.
Well, hello. Hey, today we are here with week 4 of Perspective Shift. And today, sitting in the lead pastor seat is
scary,
Rocky Johnson.
Don't even say that. That makes me want to leave.
Well, who did we have sitting over there last week?
I think
Gabe.
Gabe.
Yeah. Gabe was sitting over there, children's pastor.
Chris
Chris leaves town. All these people try to take his seat.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Dude, I'm more than happy to give this one back.
I know you are. Well, Rocky preached on Sunday this week and got week 4 of Perspective Shift and did a great job. And so, Rocky, you started by telling us about your fast shoes. And your wife got you some new shoes.
Some new shoes.
And so, like, you brought them home and you tested them out.
They were super fast.
They were super fast.
Super fast.
Hey, do you remember, I'm curious, maybe this was an Ohio thing, but when I was a kid, we had the shoes, they were Jeepers.
Jeepers?
I think so. Do you not remember Jeepers? Do you remember Tough Skin jeans?
Oh yeah, that's what I'd get is tough skin
Well,
jeans.
I think it were those from JCPenney?
I have no clue. I just
This
remember
is
they
your
had
History Channel today.
I just remember they had reinforced knees that were super super rough. And
so when you played flag football at recess, they didn't tear
up your knees.
Yeah.
Tear up your jeans.
I think the same JCPenney sold like these Jeepers, and there was a commercial about it. Jeepers, peepers, where'd you get those Jeepers? I don't know, something like that. So
I do not remember Jeepers.
Do you remember Ruse?
Yes.
Had the pocket on them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was short for kangaroos, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that's where the pocket came in.
That's where the pocket came in.
There we go.
Yeah. So you talk about fast shoes.
Were the kangaroos fast?
Oh,
Kangaroos
man.
were fast?
Man, the Jeepers were especially fast.
I got to look that up.
They're probably no support in them or anything now, so they're cardboard. Anyhow, so how did it go? Like, you started the sermon by talking about your fast shoes, and you were sprinting back and forth on stage. So I sat in the 8 o'clock service. Were you able to pull that off on all 4 services?
I was able to pull that off.
No cramps, no pulled muscles?
Cramps, no. I'm not going to lie to you. A little sore.
Yeah.
A little sore, which is very sad. Running across the stage, was it 8 times? And I'm sore. But yes, that just goes to show that I'm not taking advantage of my fast shoes when I'm not at church on the stage.
I don't know if you saw the Slack channel, but while you're preaching, the staff is slacking, saying there's no way he can pull this off for 4 services.
There was an over and under.
Yeah.
Making wagers. That's great.
Yeah. So in the sermon, you talked about how we tend to focus on performance, about how well we can perform. But on a less serious note, and running shoes and fast, a lot of people don't know you were fast.
Yes, I was.
Right. So tell us about that. Like high school, what'd you run?
I ran track and cross country in high school and college.
Yeah.
And in 800, half mile was my predominant race.
Yeah.
When I got to college, ran middle distance. In high school, ran sprints. So, yeah.
And you had a state record at some point, right?
I did. And now you look at that state record, and people are beating that in the 8th grade.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
I know.
It is.
I can remember trying to learn to finally dunk a basketball as a senior in high school, and now I go to tournaments and I'm watching 14-year-olds
do it.
2-hand dunk, reverse. It's just crazy. Yeah,
it's nuts.
Well, so I've always thought people that are runners are just like 2 degrees off of normal
Because of what we do.
Yeah. And I don't know if you saw Pastor Lane's Facebook post yesterday, but he ran, I think it was it 17 miles he ran yesterday?
Yeah, that's that's just.
And he's been dreaming of getting back to that. And I'm like, I have never in my life dreamed of running at all.
Well, he ran the Boston Marathon.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Years ago, he ran the Boston Marathon, which is it's crazy for me. I mean, you just can't even fathom it. Why would you want to do that?
I don't know. I that's what I'm saying. It's 2 degrees off of normal.
No. Well, you can say that about him, but mine's probably only a half a degree because I was shorter distance. Oh,
okay. So. Sprinters, I get. Sprinters.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So anyhow, it's funny. Cross country season is just kind of wrapping up here. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the staff has been going to different cross country meets to watch some of our students that are running.
Yeah.
And I haven't gotten to see it, but apparently Pastor Lane runs more than the actual racers do, trying to get from one side of the course to the other.
To the other, too. Yeah. And you can just tell. You get out there, he's you just see he's like in his happy place.
He's a runner.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And he's running probably more than they are by the time he does 4 races.
Yeah. That's nuts.
And he enjoys
The
it.
guy's a gazelle.
Yeah. He actually does look kind of like
He
that.
looks like a gazelle.
He's about that skinny.
Yeah. So, all right, Rocky. Well, what do we want to talk about today? First, do you want to do a short podcast or a long podcast?
My preference is a short podcast.
Short podcast.
Yes.
Well, you chose the wrong co-host.
I know that's what I'm saying. It's my choice is a short one.
Okay, I'll try not to make it too long. So, all right. Well, what would you say? This may be an unfair question, but what would you say is a sentence or two to summarize really the message that you preached on Sunday? You have any?
Man, it's just really for me. I think the ending part for me was with the performance. With performing for God's not interested in what I can do for Him.
Yeah,
He really isn't.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean I don't, but He's interested in just being with me.
Yeah.
And me being with Him.
Yeah.
And that's the general gist. And I'm out there running around with my fast shoes, and feeling like that's what I'm supposed to do for Him. And just being in His presence, being with Him.
Yeah.
That's what He wants.
Yeah.
That's all He desires.
That's good. Yeah, I think when I walk away from listening to a message, I always try to think, if I was just going to summarize what I just heard in 2-3 sentences, how would I summarize that? And I walked away from the message really thinking about how, we tend to be so performance based, and God is kind of like, I'm not that interested in your performance.
Yeah.
Now there should be performance there, right? But the performance should really be the overflow that just comes out naturally of being with Jesus and experiencing Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Or we would say maybe the Holy Spirit in us. It's the overflow.
Overflow of what we've been experiencing with Him.
Yeah.
It comes out, not because we're trying to impress.
Yeah. Yeah. So and this is tricky because even in church world, even in church, a lot of times the performance gets rewarded.
Yes.
Right? Like we look around and sometimes the people that we would say are, quote, the best Christians, this may be going too deep too quick, and even some of the people that we would say are some of the biggest leaders in the Christian world, the church world or whatever, are extremely high performers. Mm-hmm. And yet what we don't know is behind that facade of performance, is there an actual I don't want to question their relationship with God, but is there an actual closeness and intimacy and like a total dependence on God? Have we just learned to perform really well?
Is that performance coming out of a place of relationship?
Yeah.
That's what, and you don't always know that, especially if you don't have a chance to meet the person, spend time with the person.
Right.
And I think that's very true because what gets praise.
Yeah.
And everything. I mean, it gets praised.
Yeah.
People do.
Yeah. So, I know just because you and I have a good friendship and we work together all the time.
Yeah.
Spend a lot of time in meetings together and stuff. And I know like this summer in the sermon, one of the things you talked about was like, learn to be a sheep.
Be a sheep.
And can we just talk about that for a minute? Yeah. Like you don't have to go like bare your soul here, but like you had what would I say, an epiphany or a revelation over the summer of just in your own life after what, 20, how many years of ministry have you had now?
Well,
more than 20.
It's right in under at the low 30s, but I've been here for 19 years.
19 years of grace.
So I had a chance to do a sabbatical in June. Which at first I was kind of like, I don't know if I can.
You weren't too keen on it.
I don't know if I can handle this. About 4 days in, I was like, okay, this can be good. And I remember Ashley, which at the time was my assistant, she asked me the question, what do you want to get out of your sabbatical? And I was like, I'd never thought about it. Yeah. I mean, I was trying to get everything ready to go on the sabbatical, but I hadn't really thought about what I want to see happen in that month-long sabbatical.
Yeah.
And I was listening to a podcast, Jeff Little's podcast from Milestone, and one of the things he was talking about is how pastors need to get back to a shepherding heart.
Mm.
And I was like, well, that's what I need to get my shepherding heart back.
Yeah.
Where I love people and I'm investing in people, and because ministry is emotionally, it's draining. And so sometimes I started pulling back and instead of investing in, because I was just tired.
Yeah. And real quick on that, what if for people who aren't in ministry, what they may not understand is it's very easy in ministry for you and I especially to just get focused on what has to get done and really how are we performing, not just even individually, but how are we performing as a church and as teams and all this kind of stuff. And we begin to lose that, hey, this is all about people, right?
People are ministry.
Yeah. Okay. So go ahead.
And so anyway, I was like, okay, I want to get my shepherding heart back. And I remember the very first week I was actually back in Louisiana at my mom's house, and I woke up one morning and I was just spending some time with God. And I can't even remember, honestly, what I was reading. But I remember that very vividly, God said, you can't be a shepherd until you're a sheep. And that rocked me because I had not just forgot how to be a shepherd, but I had literally forgotten how to be a sheep and just be his sheep and be in his presence. And so the rest of the sabbatical really was focused in on just being a sheep. And I started camping out in Psalm 23.
Right.
And then I went to that counseling intensive, pastors and down in Florida. And the counselor that was working with me the whole time, she ran with that, and shared with that, and she ran with that entire thing about me being a sheep.
Yeah.
And I just had realized that all these years of ministry that I'd gotten good enough at performing and getting by. And nobody had a clue because I was still doing what I was always done. Yeah. But I'd lost that dependence. In that just being in God's presence. And so that sheep part is just that's for me. And even being back, it didn't take long for me to when I got back, it was like, okay, I got to slow down. I got to be a sheep. I got to slow down. I got to be a sheep. And that's where that part comes, because this was very real to me. This message was very real to me.
Yeah, for sure.
I am a performance-driven, I'm a task-oriented, get things done person. And if I'm not careful, I will not slow down and just be a sheep and work and serve from an element of dependence on God.
Right. So. Okay. So be a sheep. And you said you can't really learn to be a shepherd if you don't know what it's like to be a sheep. I don't know exactly how you said that, but that makes me think just in the leadership circles, you hear that if you can't be a great leader if you never learn to be a great follower, right? It's same concept there is if I haven't really learned to follow Jesus, and it's not even really, it is following him, but it's learning to abide. It's learning to just be.
Yeah.
And man, that is so hard to do for driven personalities to think about. I'm acceptable in God's eyes simply because he made me. I'm his creation. Like I don't need to do anything to earn his love, right?
No. Well, he sent Jesus.
Right.
Because he loved us and we weren't even born yet.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a minute. You kind of hit on this yesterday, and it was really for those who haven't yet placed their faith in Jesus. I think maybe the thinking was people tend to come to church, even those who have not yet placed their faith in Jesus. They come to church, and it's because they feel like I need to do something. I need to go somewhere. I need to do this thing called church because one, that's a check mark, like I did something good. And then they can get caught up in, well, what do I have to do to be a good person or be okay with God? Yeah. And that comes right down to exactly the same thing, right? I have to perform my way into this relationship with God. Okay.
I got to be good enough so he'll actually accept me.
Right. Yeah. Right. So I think I mentioned this book recently, and I don't remember who wrote it. It was in fact, I think we used to hand it out here, and it was like, How Good is Good Enough? Was that Andy Stanley that wrote that? And so it's kind of that idea of if you believe that that's your way into this eternal relationship with God is your good works, your performance, then what's the measurement of what's good enough?
What's good enough, yeah.
Right?
In every religion, that's if you trace it back, that's what it boils down to, with the exception of Christianity, because it's good. Make sure your goodness, make sure your good deeds outweigh your bad.
So you kind of walk through for somebody who has not yet placed their faith in Jesus, and they tend to think that performance is going to earn this relationship with God. What were some of the things that you talked about in relation to that to help them understand, no, it's not about your performance? I know one was you talked about Romans 3:23, which is
for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God.
Right.
And that means that everybody, even in the best of the best, sin is sin.
Right.
And there's that standard of what God has set.
Yeah.
Perfection. We'll never reach that.
Yeah. That verse is so powerful because it doesn't leave any wiggle room.
No.
Right. It says for all have sinned. Like there's no mincing words in that. And I don't know about you. Have you ever, excuse me, have you ever had anyone tell you they haven't sinned?
I think in our culture today, that's prevalent.
Yeah.
It used to not be.
Yeah.
But I think that so many people now believe that when you say sin, well, that's to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've actually had some conversations with people that don't believe.
Yeah.
But usually if you can dive in deep enough, they can understand where this was or this wasn't. But that is kind of a different conversation today than it used to be.
Yeah.
Because they think that it's
I say it in Grow Class. I actually say we don't have time in Grow Class to tell everyone's stories, but I said if we had time to go around and tell everyone's story, we would all determine pretty quickly we've all sinned. Like there wouldn't be any question about that. And I think it is true today we have this what would we call it, moral relativism. And it's like what's right for you may not be what's right for me. And that means there's just no standard for what's actually true and right, when we actually do have a standard for what's true and right, and it's God himself.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I guess to some degree there are people in the culture today who I think if you really get down to it, they would finally say, well,
if you can have a long enough conversation with them,
but
they can probably get to a place where, you're right. I'm kind of,
But what they're doing is they're trying to justify their sin to say, well, it's not really that bad because.
And really what they're doing in that situation is, they're trying to raise their goodness up.
Yeah.
And remove their bad.
Right.
So they can be acceptable.
Right. Yeah. So as that comparison, it comes down to the comparison game again. And unfortunately, many people are comparing themselves to the wrong thing.
Yes.
Right.
Comparing to other people.
Yeah. And if we would compare to God's standard, then we would agree we have all sinned.
Very quickly.
Right. Yeah. So the answer to that then is to realize because I've sinned, my sin separates me from God. And in order to have that relationship, Jesus tells us himself, Jesus' words himself, where I am the way, the truth, and the life. If anyone wants to come to the Father, if anyone wants to come to God, they have to come through me. And not really a politically correct statement today.
No.
Right? Because many religions, almost all religions, are like, well, if you do these things, if you believe in this, and many people would say, well, there's many ways to get to God. There's many ways to eternal life. And Jesus was pretty clear. He's like, no, I am the way. Yeah. So again, I talk about, well, there might be many paths to get to Jesus, right? Like if you told your story and I told my story and Emily over here told her story, we'd all have very different ways that we got to Jesus.
But it's still Jesus.
But we all had to go through Jesus to get into this relationship with God. Right.
Exactly.
So the performance is pointless, right? What we've done or not done to this point doesn't matter. It's what Jesus did.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. So you use Paul as an example. So Paul talked about how, hey, if you want to talk about performance, he was
the man.
Yeah, he was like the all-star Jew.
Yeah.
Right? So, excuse me, what all did he talk about as far as like his all-star resume?
Well, he came from, he was born from the tribe of Benjamin.
Yeah.
He was a Jew of all Jews. He was come from a pure line. He was circumcised on the 8th day, which is the best day. Evidently, you'd have to ask Chris about what that means. But he was a Pharisee.
Hey, I'm just curious. Is there actually a good day to get circumcised?
Yesterday.
Yesterday. Okay.
But he was also a Pharisee.
Yeah.
Which meant he was a religious elite.
Yep.
I mean, he was very well studied.
Yep.
I believe, from what I understand, they had the first 5 books of the Bible,
Yep.
the Torah,
Memorized. Yeah.
And he was zealous. He was zealot for defending the faith.
Right.
And so he was. I mean, he checked everything off the box.
Right.
And then after the fact, after all this happening, met Jesus. He looked at that and says, "That's worthless."
I realized it was worthless. Yeah.
It's nothing.
Yeah, I think in Scripture, when we really dig into what he said it's a pile of
dung,
of crap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
said
really.
Dung. You said crap.
I know I said crap. We're on the podcast. We can say it. So, okay. So again, whether we have already placed our faith in Jesus or if we've already placed our faith in Jesus, we still tend to focus on performance.
Yes.
Right. I tend to call it performance-based acceptance, and it's hard for us because from day one in our family, the entire time we were in school, if we played athletics, if we excelled in academics, if we whatever, and then we go on to college and we face some of the same things, and then we get a job, and we have performance evaluations, right? We get raises based on performance. And so everywhere we go in life, there is this performance-based acceptance. It's what we're, in essence, measured by in the world.
Yeah.
So it's really our way of thinking.
If even think about, and I don't remember when it happened for me, but I remember with my daughters, they took their first step.
Yeah.
What did we do?
We cheer.
We cheered.
Yeah.
They took their first step, or they rolled over, or they crawled. You know, all that, everything that we know from the very beginning is ingrained. Is just perform, do.
Right. Okay. So where we kind of want to go with this is then, and I think you referred to, is it Galatians
3?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have that?
I do.
Go ahead and read that real quick.
I'm scanning here to find Galatians 3:3. You talking about this passage where it says, "How foolish you can be? How foolish can you be after starting new lives in the Spirit? Why are you now trying to become perfect by your own human effort?"
Yeah.
And then the next one was 4:10, which talks about we're trying to earn favor with God by what we do.
Yeah, Galatians 4:10, you're trying to earn favor with God by observing certain days or months or seasons or years. Yeah. And that's really referring to being like super religious and doing all the right things. Right. And we somehow think that we're earning favor by doing that. So, this Galatians 3 is a verse that has always stuck with me because I was convicted years ago in my own life. I didn't realize, I would call it legalism, is that if I keep all the rules, like I'm a legalist, I keep all the rules, I'm morally good, then certainly God's going to love me more. Yeah. And certainly because I do those things, he's going to bless me, right? And if I don't, he's going to punish me. Like that's kind of the non-Christian, Christian, that's kind of the mentality we walk around with. If I do good things, then God's going to be good to me.
Well, that's the way we walk around in life with people.
Right.
And then we've just transferred that to our relationship with God.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
but I've always thought it was funny that in the church world, what we preach and tell people is, hey, this relationship with God, golly.
Got you all choked
allergies.
Up,
got me choked up. I'm verklempt. This relationship with God, we tell them, you can't earn that. There's nothing you can do to earn it. And so what you have to do is just surrender. In other words, give up and just go, okay, I just have to accept what Jesus did for me and receive that as a free gift from God, God's grace, right?
But then,
and then go ahead.
No.
So people place their faith in Jesus, and then we immediately turn around and go, okay, now here's all the things you have to start doing.
Yeah.
And I've always thought
and the thing is, I'm guilty of that.
Yeah,
I'm
we all
guilty
are.
of telling people that.
Yeah.
This is what you need to do.
Yeah.
But we do kind of mask it in, okay, this is what's going to help grow your relationship.
Right.
But then we just immediately give them a checklist.
Right. Yeah. So that's one of the things, we rewrote our grow classes. What has it been, 3 years now? Something like that. And you and myself and Chris kind of sat down and talked about what we wanted to cover in those classes, and then we went away and wrote it. But one of the things we're really careful in there to do is we do teach the spiritual disciplines, or I like to call them spiritual practices. But I'm real careful, and you are too when you teach it, before we jump into going, okay, here are the spiritual disciplines. In other words, these are the things that are going to help you grow in your relationship with God. That's true. But what we lay out is these don't make God any more happy with you or any more angry with you when you don't. You shouldn't necessarily feel guilty when you don't.
That's the key right there.
That's hard, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
Because we've been taught these are the things that make you a good Christian. And then when you don't do it, well, today I wasn't a good Christian and God's mad at me now. Well, I mean, that's so contrary to Scripture, right? Go ahead.
There's it's coming back on my sabbatical.
Yeah.
I think I shared this with you. One of the first times after coming back from my sabbatical, I woke up late and didn't have my quiet time.
Yeah, you did.
And it was and crazy. It was the first time
Yeah.
that I didn't drive to work feeling guilty because I didn't have my quiet time.
Yeah.
Because I there's just something inside of me is like, oh, I got to get up and do that. I got to
Yeah.
get up and have my quiet time. And for the first time, I was just being the sheep. I wasn't getting beaten by the shepherd.
Yeah.
I was just going back
Yeah.
to being a sheep.
Yeah.
And it's so much
Oh, it's ingrained
inside
in us.
of me. It
Yeah.
is just, it drives, and I have to constantly add that tension inside of me.
Yeah.
And then making sure that we're communicating that same thing to other people, helping them
Right.
understand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's important that I spend time with God in my
Absolutely.
quiet time.
Yeah.
But He's not up there with a cosmic lightning bolt or ready
Yeah.
to throw it down at me because I didn't read my Bible this morning.
Yeah. I used to have a friend that talked about that we tend to view God as like that. You remember that whack-a-mole game?
Yeah. Boom,
You
boom,
used to
boom,
go to the arcade and the things would pop up and you'd hit it with a hammer. And a lot of people view God that way, as he's just waiting for us to mess up, and then he's smacking us on the head with a mallet, you know. So back to the spiritual disciplines then. So do the spiritual disciplines matter? For sure, they do. But the point of them is not to make sure that God's happy with me and not mad at me, and then when I don't, I feel guilty. It's none of that. What it actually is it's learning to be a sheep. It's actually the relationship. And so, you know, the example I use is, hey, I meet some guy in the lobby on Sunday here at church, and I think, hey, this is a really cool guy. I'd love to get to know him. And usually the first thing I do is go, hey, can we go grab breakfast or lunch sometime?
Yeah.
And so what we begin to do is we begin to get together, and he talks, I listen, and then I talk, he listens. And then we spend time together. And if that relationship grows, we may spend more and more time together. And eventually we get to the point where we begin to do things for each other. Like we serve each other. We might even, hey, on his birthday, may take him to eat or get a gift for him or something like that. And so that relationship just grows over time. Well, that's the same thing we're doing with spiritual disciplines. We're building a relationship with Jesus. We're spending time together.
Spending time, getting to know each other.
Right. And so there's no guilt. Now, when I don't do it, do I miss out? Yeah, I probably do a little bit, but it's just that I'm missing out relationally.
Yeah.
It's not that God's all of a sudden mad at me, right?
You're getting demerits
Right.
up there.
Yeah.
No.
So, man, this is taking off a total tangent, but this is where I like to really talk about also what's the difference between guilt and conviction.
Dude, help me out here. You know,
So-
because I wrestle with that too.
Yeah. So I think, and I don't have the verse on hand right now, but there's a verse that talks about there's a godly sorrow, or this, man, I hate that I screwed up, right? There's a godly sorrow that leads to repentance, which means a change of mind and a change of direction. And then there's a worldly sorrow that just leads to more guilt and shame. And I'm very much paraphrasing the passage. And so that's where I differentiate between conviction and guilt, because I think guilt is a tool of the enemy.
Definitely.
It's a tool of Satan, whereas conviction is one of the things that the Holy Spirit does in our life, right? And what does conviction do? Conviction leads me to stop and go, oh, yeah, that wasn't right. And then we just confess, and it's, hey, man, I wasn't believing the right thing. that wasn't right. God, I messed up. I receive your forgiveness and I move on. Okay, here we go. We're back in back in the full relationship. Not that a relationship goes away, but we just repair the relationship and we move on. Whereas guilt, I say, is really, it's a tool of the enemy. And the way I like to describe guilt is it's like me, I mess up and then I feel really bad about myself and I hand Satan a bat and I say, just beat me over the head with that.
Hitting me for a while.
Yeah. And then when I feel bad enough, then certainly God will feel sorry for me.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like you've got to serve a penance.
Yeah.
For what you did, because it can't be that easy just to say, God, I'm sorry.
Right.
And
yeah.
get back to the place where you were with him.
Yeah.
I've got to pay for this.
Yeah. Well, and unfortunately that word penance that you just said, we tend to tie that to the word repentance. We think repentance has some level of penance in it, as I have to pay.
I have to suffer.
That's well, wait, what did Jesus die for? Yeah. He already died for that.
It's already over.
God's kind of going, what are you talking about? Yeah. So on the guilt thing too, the other thing I think is funny, and this comes down again to our performance based, and when we don't measure up, then we feel bad and we try to make up. But this guilt thing is like, if it's just a little sin, hey, Satan, just knock me once on the head. But if it's really bad, hey, hold on to this for a month and beat me over the head with it for a month. And then we'll be okay.
That's actually, because I still struggle with what the difference is, but I know that if it's a continual beat down, that's guilt.
Yeah.
Once I say, okay, God, I'm sorry. Yep. Let's get back in the right relationship here. Mm-hmm. And he's done.
Right.
But if the next day I start feeling guilty again, start feeling that, it's guilt. It's him hitting me on the head with the bat again. Yeah. And we keep doing that over a couple of months. Mm-hmm. Then we're like, this is definitely not.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish I could remember the quote, but there's some quote about that God wants us to always be thinking about our future. Satan wants to remind us of our past. And he's really good at that. So, Rocky, I'm so extreme in this. And so now we're getting into this thing of our previous series that we did, more Everyone Needs Grace. Mm-hmm. And we did several weeks on talking about grace, what it is, and God's grace to us, and then how we extend grace to other people. I'm an extreme grace guy, and it comes down to all of this, performance base and or is it accepted just because Jesus died on the cross for me and I've received that, And so I've told some people, I'm like, hey man, I don't know. I'm an extreme grace guy.
Yeah.
And I'm going to state this carefully. So I hope this disturbs some people enough that they'll send an email that upsets them. Okay. I shouldn't have said that, should I?
What email do you want to send it to?
Do you want me to?
No.
Info at, yes. Okay. But I don't believe personally, I'm just going to challenge, maybe the Bible doesn't teach that in the New Testament and as a believer that you need to continue to ask God for forgiveness every time you mess up. Okay. I do think the Bible teaches confess your sin and receive the forgiveness, but I don't think it is, because the way I say it is, if you were holding a water bottle in your hand, you already have a water bottle, and then you look at me and go, hey, Mark, could you get me a water bottle? I would go, well, you already have one. Well, but would you just give me a water bottle? Rocky, you already have one. You already have one. What is it you're asking for, right? And I think that's maybe the way God is with us, that we're continually going back to him and going, God, will you forgive me, please? And we beg him for his forgiveness. And this is for people who are already in a relationship with God. They've placed their faith in Jesus. And I think when we go back and continue to ask him for forgiveness, he's kind of going, what are you doing? What are you talking about? Yeah. What did Jesus die for? I'm just curious. And it's a misunderstanding actually in Scripture that when Jesus died and paid the penalty for our sin, if you read that correctly in the original language, it means he paid the penalty for all sin, past, present, and future, right? It's paid for. Mm-hmm. So literally God is, when we mess up, he's kind of going, I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't even see it.
Right. So now I don't think that means that we just get to be flippant about our sin and just do whatever the heck we want. it is that when I do mess up, there should be this conviction from the Holy Spirit, and then the response should be a confession, which just means to agree with God. Hey, that wasn't right.
Yeah, what I did was
That wasn't.
what I
That
thought,
wasn't.
what I
Yeah.
said.
Right.
Mhm.
And then go, and I receive your forgiveness, and here we go.
Yeah.
We're back on track. Right. Got any comments to that? Any?
Well, and that's hard for me to understand.
It's extreme.
But whenever we develop that relationship with God through the way of Jesus Christ,
yeah.
it's not that he just forgives our sin up to that point, and then everything after that we've got to keep asking every time we do that.
Right.
It's all gone.
Yep.
It's all gone.
Right.
And I want to say that I'm horrible with this, but it may have been Paul that talked about this, that are we going back and forth? Are we having to make Jesus die on a cross again?
Yeah. Right. Right.
You know, when he forgives my sins up to the point of when I trusted him, but then the sin that I commit the next week, do we send him back to the cross to die again for that one?
Right.
No, that one-time sacrifice was enough for it all.
It was complete.
Complete.
Yeah.
It's perfect. And for us to keep camping out and going back. Now, I do agree with the fact that we do need to come to that confession time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not as much for him to forgive because it's already done,
Right.
but it's us to acknowledge and to get back on track and get
Yeah.
back in that right relationship that we've kind of stepped
Yeah.
away from for a moment.
Yeah.
And so, but no, I think the forgiveness part is done.
Yeah.
And we don't have to keep going.
So and I want to be careful when I say that too, because also if you are a believer and you continue to ask God for forgiveness, I'm not going to sit here and say that's a sin. I'm just going to say I don't think that's what the Bible teaches.
Yeah.
I think it's just confess the sin, back on track, and here we go.
But it also doesn't give us, and Paul talked about this too, do we keep sinning?
It's not a license to sin.
It's not a license to sin.
Right.
It's not a license to do what we want to because we've already been forgiven.
Yeah.
But we don't need to live in the guilt and
Yeah.
shame
Yeah.
because we did,
Right.
because it's already over.
Yeah.
It's been cleansed.
Right.
So.
Okay, cool. So hopefully that gives some people some things to chew on, because that's a little bit
Gives them something to
hard.
chew on. They're like, okay, help us out here. You're going to drop it right there? You're going to leave us there now?
Yeah. So, on all this, Rocky, you know me well enough to know I can't sit and listen to a message like this and not come back to there's a whole thing of identity here.
Mm-hmm. I even mentioned that in the message.
You did.
That we find our identity in our performance,
Right.
which is false.
Right. Yeah. So my mentor, a good friend of mine, Jamie Winship, his whole ministry is about identity. But he says we almost everybody is walking around in a false identity. We think we get to shape our identity, and the world really tells us that, But what we get our false identity or our identity from is what we do, what we have, and who we know. Right? That tends to be the way we form identity. It's a false identity in the world, and so we go around and we perform well enough to be perceived as a good person, and then when we screw up, man, we really have to feel really bad and make up for it and all that. And what he would teach is that no, true identity is simply who God made you to be, right? And I love this concept is that, Rocky, God made you before time began. Now, this is kind of hard. I want to go too deep on it, but he made you before time began, and he didn't make you physically, but he created you. He knew exactly who he was making Rocky Johnson to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Before he created anything.
Before he created anything. Right. And then at some point he began to create you physically. It's what we read about in Psalm 139 that David's saying, God, you knit me together in my mother's womb. Well, that's when he begins to create you physically. But if we can get our head around this, if God knew before time who he created me to be, then there is a very specific identity. And who defines it?
My Creator.
My Creator. Yeah. I don't define it. I don't get to shape this identity. I have to discover who God made me to be. And so this comes back to this idea of a sheep is just learn, one is ask God who he made you to be and discover that. and then learn how to be in his presence and just be.
Yeah.
And know that in his sight, that's beautiful. That's awesome. That's all I really need is you to be you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He didn't need me to be a Mark Morgan.
No, please, we don't need another Mark Morgan. Trust me.
Only handle one.
So when I can learn to be, then you go, well, what about the doing? Well, the doing comes out of my being. And if I'll just be who God created me to be, that is super powerful, crazy powerful.
It's free.
And
it's freeing.
It's freeing. Mm-hmm. And then the doing comes very, very naturally out of when I'm being. And I think we can go back to John 15, and it says, I'm the vine, you are the branches. Abide in me, and you will bear much fruit. Mm-hmm. And the concept there is that no branch is sitting around thinking, I've got to make a grape today. No, it just stays attached to the vine.
I'm visualizing that for a second.
And so it just abides in the vine. Mm-hmm. And what happens naturally is fruit. Yeah. And so it's the same idea that if we'll understand and be okay, learn first to be okay with who God made me to be, figure out who that is, mm-hmm. and love. And this is very careful. Love who God made me to be. This isn't ego. This isn't pride. Love the one that God made me to be. God, I love that guy. I love that guy that you made. That's beautiful and awesome.
Now, let me say this, because you talk identity all the time.
I do.
Okay.
Too much, maybe.
I don't know if it's too much, but
never too much.
But there's for me, that is, I don't want to say it's a new concept, because even when I was younger, I was taught my identity in Christ, mm-hmm. but it was the general identity of Christ. I was a child of God.
Yeah.
I was a masterpiece. What you're talking about is the uniqueness.
Unique individual.
There's not another Rocky. There's not another Mark.
Right.
And for me, I struggle to wrap my mind around that sometimes.
Yeah.
But not that I disagree with it at all. But here's the thing for me that I have to constantly tell myself: God's not trying to hide that from me.
Right.
It's not like He's saying, "Okay, I'm going to hide your identity over here."
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Here it is," and run with
it.
But then the other struggle for me is, but what if I want to be a Mark Morgan?
Right.
What if I want to be a Chris Hurst?
Yeah.
I don't like being a Rocky Johnson.
Right.
And so there's also that tension, that struggle you have with, I don't like what God made me to be.
Right.
But that's the frustration and exhaustion comes.
Yeah. And what I would say is, if that's what you're saying, then what you're saying, it'll just use you as an example. Mm-hmm. If you don't like Rocky, then what you're saying is, I don't like who I believe that I am, but I promise you, if you understood who God actually made you to be, it's like Psalm 139. David actually is just going, it's almost like he's outside of himself, looking at himself, the true one that God created. And he's going, oh my gosh, God, that guy is amazing. And God, you've made me so complex, I can't even figure myself out. I need your help figuring myself out. But it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Now it wasn't prideful. It's actually very humble, right? And he's just going, the one that you made me to be. I would argue, man, we're getting so far off topic, but I would argue that the great commandment, we get it messed up. The great commandment is what? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And the second is love your neighbor as yourself. Okay. And so the way I was taught that my whole life was love God first, love other people second, and then think about yourself. Okay. There's some truth to that. But what I would argue is, no, the right order is love God. Actually understand who he is and love him for who he is. Love myself, the true one that God made me to be. In other words, you eventually go, oh my gosh, God, I see it. Mm-hmm. I understand who you made me to be now. I love that, right? Then that gives me the ability to actually love other people.
Yes.
And the reason for that is when I'm good with God and I'm good with who he made me to be, I don't need anything from anybody else. I don't have to, in relationship, try to manipulate you to receive acceptance from you. I'm kind of walking around going, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like me and God are good, and I can just give.
Yeah. That the quote I had yesterday from Brady Daniels' book, Unstuck.
Yeah.
That chapter is talking about that very thing.
Yeah, Brady does a great job talking about this.
That we've kind of confused that a little bit.
Yeah.
Where it's impossible for us to truly love people.
Right.
Because if we don't love God first and ourselves second, our relationships with other people is going to be there to benefit us.
It's really manipulation.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And he talks about in there how we're to receive love from God and to love ourselves. And once we get that in balance, then everything else, the performance part works out.
Yeah.
But we get that distorted. We think if we love ourselves, that's prideful.
Right.
But that's not.
It's not.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
But it's loving the true one that God made me to be. And that's a little tricky. There's a quote, and I can't remember who said it, Kierkegaard or something like that. And it's like, it's something about discovering, I'm becoming who I always was. That's an interesting statement because identity is not something you form and shape. It's a process of discovery.
And you often already are.
Yeah, you already are. God set it in place before time began. So anyhow, there's a beautiful side of that too, to say, man, created you before time. And there is only one true Rocky Johnson, not just now. In all of eternity, there's only one of you.
And of all the creation.
Right.
Now, here's the thing for me too that I often have to wrestle with is if I'm not happy with who I am, I'm not happy with God.
No.
Because he made me that way.
Right.
He created me unique.
Yep.
Now, I think sometimes we can get a little lost and think that's the way God made me.
Yep.
But that's not our true identity. We got to be very careful.
Right.
But when we're arguing with God the way we are, if I'm not content being Rocky, it's not because Rocky's bad. It's because I'm blaming God.
Yeah. And if you're doing that, you actually have a wrong view of God.
True.
Because now you're believing, well, God made a mistake. And my question would be, is it true? Does God make mistakes? The God of the Bible that I know, I'd have to answer no, he doesn't make mistakes. But when I begin to believe that I'm a mistake, then I'm really spitting in the face of my Creator. And I'm not really making him God anymore. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyhow, okay. I don't know, man. We are 10 miles off the trail, but this is good. Hey, Rocky mentioned, I don't know, can we see that? So this is the book that Rocky referenced in his sermon yesterday from Brady Daniel. Brady attends our church. Brady's a good friend of both of ours, an amazing counselor. And he wrote this book. Man, this book is a really simple read.
Very easy
You and
read.
I were talking about it. Very easy read, but very profound.
Very, very. It's for me. It's going to be one of those books that I'm probably need to read about once a year.
Right.
Because even though I know what he's saying,
I
need to constantly be reminded.
Yeah.
Because it's very quickly I can get off track.
Right. Because again, we're back to this idea of this performance-based world that we live in is constantly then pulling us away from this
Our natural drift.
Just being a sheep, right? And going, hey, I'm good with the shepherd. So anyhow, so one of the quotes you said from Brady's book here, Unstuck, is the goal is not to deserve love, but to receive love. And man, that kind of hits the heart of what you were trying to get at here, is that God absolutely loves you, right? He loves you so much that he gave up his own son. He gave you everything he had. And what we have to understand, if we read the Bible accurately, God is a giver. And yet we walk around thinking there's all these things we need to do for God. And the reality is we just need to learn to receive.
And be in that posture.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, this is so, God has everything.
Yeah.
You know? And I think sometimes we feel like God's kind of holding on to it and saying, I'm not going to give you everything. Here's just a little bit.
Yeah.
He wants to love us completely. He does love us completely. And we're trying to earn it.
Right.
And he's like, dude, it's already there.
Right.
And it's in abundance. It's pouring over.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there trying to run fast.
Yeah. Yeah. Boy, we could go down a whole nother rabbit trail of, we live in this a worldly mindset, which is scarcity. But God's kingdom, if we really understand God's kingdom, it's a kingdom of abundance. No lack, right? We don't understand it, and we don't know how to receive. And man, we could talk 8 more hours about this. I don't understand this yet. I don't understand how to just relax and receive from God. Like it's I think in every situation, he's inviting us into something. Instead, we're looking, how do we create opportunities for God? And it's like, he's like, I don't need your help creating opportunities. Will you just step into what I'm inviting you into?
I love this as I was diving into Psalms 23.
Yeah.
The Lord is my shepherd. The very next phrase, I shall not lack.
I shall not want. Yeah.
I shall not want. I have, my God is going to give me everything that I need.
Yeah.
But we live thinking that he's not, that he's holding on to stuff.
Yeah.
And he's going to provide. He's going to give us an abundance of.
We begin to think we have to fight and scratch and claw for what's ours. And God's holding things back or hiding things from us or whatever. And I think he's kind of sitting over there going, would you, dumb sheep, would you just come over here? He doesn't call us dumb, but like, would you just come over here? Why are you going over there?
That's
come over
Mark's
here.
translation.
That's Mark's, yeah. So, okay, well, Rocky, we probably need to wrap it up. So anything you want to say in summary, just about, we probably didn't even adequately get back to covering, what you preached on Sunday. But anything you want to say in closing here?
Yeah, to me, I think it's like you said, I believe it's a constant source of tension in our lives.
Yeah.
And I'm not blaming my parents on the way they raised me,
Yeah.
okay? But it's just our culture is performance. And I think there's that constant tension. And I think as shepherds for ourselves, as we've got to make sure that we're very careful that we're not leading people to think it's their performance.
Oh, man, yeah.
But also at the same time, we've got to make sure that we as the sheep are not constantly trying to perform to make God happy with us.
Yeah.
And truthfully, that happens in that relationship. It happens in that ongoing connection with God.
Right.
And it's whenever we get disconnected and we're out there outside. It's kind of like what Paul said. You came to know Christ in the Spirit, and now you're trying to do it in your own effort.
Right.
And that's where I live. And here's the thing. This is I guess it would be a dashboard for me, a dashboard light. When I begin to get exhausted, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, I mean, there's times when you get tired and you need to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
But whenever I get exhausted emotionally, I need to take a step back and say, okay, am I trying to do this thing that God's called me to do on my own effort?
Yeah.
Because that's my dashboard. That's my dash light that says check engine.
Yeah.
And that's what I would say that we all need to be constantly, okay, where am I at right now with God?
Yeah.
Am I walking with him? Am I walking in my true identity?
Yeah.
Because if I'm not, dude, I'm going to be spent.
Yeah.
And I get there very quickly. And people that know me can probably see it before I can see it in myself.
Yeah.
So
it's funny because my wife and I actually just had this conversation last week, and I realized that I've been coming home from work for the last couple months exhausted. I mean, fried. I've got nothing left. And I'm like you, that's kind of a dashboard for me, is like, if I'm exhausted every day, and then I look back at my day, and it's not like I got here to work at 5 a.m. and I did all these exhausting things all day and came home at 8 p.m. It was like, no, I got here at 8:30, 9, whatever, and maybe I was here till 6. So not an overly exhausting day. Literally, I spent the day in meetings, and I get home and I'm exhausted. Well, that just tells me I'm not doing it right. I'm not doing it right. I'm not abiding. I'm not being a sheep,
You're trying to make grapes.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to make grapes. That's it. So,
and that's a whole nother topic, truthfully, because sometimes those things are exhausting. But you've got to check yourself and say, okay, what am I doing? Am I functioning in the way I need to? And And that's a whole nother podcast.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we could do a week on that.
Oh, yeah.
So let's just wrap this up by bringing this back to, I was just thinking, kind of the overriding theme of Philippians is joy. And this is this abiding, deep contentment and peace and satisfaction in our relationship with God, regardless of our circumstances. And here, I think one of the points you were making in this message was that if we think we're going to find joy from performing well enough, and when I perform well enough, I feel good about myself. Mm-hmm. That'd be more happiness than it is joy. But the point was we can't find joy in that. No. And the reason is because we all fall short of God's glory. We're human. We don't ever fully measure up. And so when we create this standard and we begin to work towards this standard, and we might do really good for 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years,
2 days,
2 days, 2 hours, 2 minutes sometimes. And then all of a sudden we mess up. Well, then I just lost my joy. Mm-hmm. Right. And now there's the guilt and the shame and that whole sin cycle and all that. Well, no, joy is found in understanding that I don't have to perform for God. I just have to remember He created me for a relationship. That's why He created me. I enter into that relationship by what Jesus did for me on the cross and in the grave and in His resurrection. And in that, I can rest. I can be a sheep. I'm a branch abiding in the vine. Or another great example is the prodigal son. I'm the prodigal son. I go out and screw up, and yet the Father is just waiting for me to come back home and be in a relationship with Him, right? And that's where we find true joy.
When you say that, and it probably goes back to the series on Everybody Needs Grace.
Yeah.
Salvation comes through grace.
Yep.
But life comes through grace. We
right.
live in grace every day.
Yeah.
And if we don't,
yeah,
we're going to miss that. Joy comes from walking in grace mm-hmm. every day mm-hmm. with Him.
Yeah.
And that's
and that's just this peace and joy to go. God's completely pleased with me, no matter, or very, very. God is actually enjoying me, mm-hmm. regardless of how I perform. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yep.
Maybe. So. All right. Well, cool. Well, we better wrap up. So, Rocky, great to have you on the podcast today. Really enjoyed the sermon on Sunday, and I'm sure many people have lots that God is saying to them through it. So next week we're back with week 5 of Perspective Shift. Yeah. So this has been a great series, and hey, if you have your book, make sure you're doing the daily devotionals and plugging into your small group and discussing these things together. But again, we'll be back next week with week 5 of Perspective Shift.